Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and well, it's handheld season, really, isn't it? Last week, I reviewed the upcoming Valve Steam Deck OLED, and coming out this week, something I've been using since this past Thursday, is Sony's PlayStation Portal. This is a kind of controversial handheld that they announced at the beginning of the year, and today we'll talk about what it is, what it isn't, and how it performs as a remote play device, because that's what this $200 handheld is. It's not like Nintendo Switch, it's not like a Steam Deck, it's kind of more like the Logitech G Cloud. It is a streaming device for playing games off of your PlayStation 5. Remote play, of course, has been a service, a system that's been around since the PS3. It's fairly robust, and people enjoy it with all sorts of different devices, but basically you're able to, over any kind of Wi-Fi or even cellular connection, play games off of your console on a separate device. So whether it's a smartphone, a tablet, or using applications like Chiaki for Deck or PS Play, you can actually play your PS5 and PS4 games while not sitting in front of your TV. There are a variety of, mounts that you can get for like the DualSense controller for under $15, or you can buy even cheap alternatives like Stadia's controller for about $20 to $25 on eBay that then allow you to plug in over like this USB-C connection to a new iPhone 15 or something. But the PlayStation Portal is all of that experience in a now first-party Sony released handheld. And looking at it, let's take a look at the hardware itself first. It's a large 8-inch LCD screen, kind of mounted onto what looks like a DualSense controller split in two. So ergonomically, that's one of the big advantages of the PlayStation Portal. It feels very much like holding a DualSense controller on the left and right side. The weight, of course, is more. This comes in at 530 grams, so less than that of a Steam Deck, less than that of maybe two DualSense controllers, and more than a Nintendo Switch OLED model, for example. But spread across the weight, I found this to be really comfortable to hold. Just that familiar feel of a DualSense controller, even that same texture on the back, your tiny PlayStation button logos on the back, and all the buttons and everything, all the buttons felt and responded very familiarly. The big difference, though, is that there's some difference in terms of placement. Your PlayStation button is on the left side here. There's a mute button on the right side that illuminates for your microphone, and there's no touchpad. So like your DualSense has that touchpad and a little speaker here. Here you have the speaker at the top that plays your full game sounds, and you would use an on-screen indicator on the left and right side, these rectangles with your thumbs, to replace the touchpad. The thumbsticks also are slightly different. So something I noticed when I went in for a preview of the PlayStation Portal was that the thumbsticks were smaller than that of your DualSense or DualSense Edge controller. And my assumption was that it would be the same thumbsticks actually as the PSVR 2 controller. Those are smaller, but it's not that either. It's somewhere in between. So the thumbsticks on the PlayStation Portal, a little bit bigger than what's on the PSVR 2 and a little bit smaller than what's on the DualSense and DualSense Edge controllers. But playing games for long periods of time, my thumbs really couldn't tell the difference. Let's flip this on so you can see what that process is like. So as you boot it up, it says to unlock, press the PS button. There's no locking code. You can't actually set a locking code or anything, but you press this and you see the circular portal. So this has already been paired with my PlayStation, and this is ready to play. So it's a pretty fast handshake that's doing right now. And I'm, of course, this is a best case demo scenario. So I'm at home. My PlayStation 5 is connected over Ethernet to my wireless network. And that is then connected over 802.11ac, so Wi-Fi 5, to the PlayStation Portal. It's not 802.11ax, not Wi-Fi 6E, and to be honest, remote play would tap into those bandwidth limits anyway. The minimum bandwidth requirement, if you're tethering this to your smartphone, for example, which I did try, is 5 megabits per second, and it goes up to, Sony says, 15 megabits per second. And compared to the visual quality of remote play on a phone and tablet, it's very similar. The larger screen actually, I think, works to both its benefit and detriment. It's a 1080p screen here, up to 60 frames per second. And at the best case scenario, I mean, it looks really nice, as we'll see and as we jump into a game. But any of the compression artifacts that are just a byproduct of it being compressed video are more noticeable here. And Sony says that they haven't changed any of the remote play backend system to allow for higher bandwidth connections. And in fact, with remote play on the PS5, there's no way to adjust any of those settings. It will go automatically to 1080 if it feels like the connection is strong enough. It feels like it's not. If you're only at that 5 megabits per second, it'll go down to 720. And 720 rendered here on this LCD, it's pretty chunky, it's pretty clunky. I would say it's barely playable. You really want to have this on a strongish Wi-Fi connection, not just tethered to your phone. Now, in terms of latency, that was one of the things that we really want to compare and we're curious about on the PlayStation Portal. Sony says that this is a best case remote play scenario because the DualSense controllers are physically hardwired to this whole system. It's essentially an Android system, let's be honest here. And so I was curious how this would compare to using remote play on my phone with a Bluetooth DualSense connection versus like a tethered USB controller, or even playing on the Steam Deck using Chiaki for Deck. And doing side-by-side comparisons on the menu, seeing how responsive these controls felt, it was nearly indistinguishable. Honestly, I couldn't tell any discernible benefits of having this being a wire connection over a wired USB controller or even over a Bluetooth connected DualSense controller. It felt almost exactly the same. The other type of latency that is more noticeable, though, is screen latency. Of course, it's sending that compressed video signal over either your local network or over the cloud, then back to the PlayStation Portal, and comparing the screen response time on these remote play devices compared to the HDMI connected TV, the system and the setup that actually performed the best was the remote play app on my iPhone, connected over Wi-Fi 6 and using a Bluetooth controller. Looking at the side-by-side comparisons and going frame by frame on a cutscene to see when the cutscene would switch on these local devices, it was actually about a frame slower on both the PlayStation Portal and on the Steam Deck than on the iPhone using the Remote Play app. So not actually, I think, the optimal, the best case scenario with this connection here, although that one frame difference was barely noticeable. It's only unless you go and do a direct comparison between all these devices do you actually notice that difference. Something that was more noticeable, I found, was compression in the video being sent across. So I played a bunch of Spider-Man 2 just on the PlayStation Portal, and it's a game where there's a lot of fast motion. You're swinging through cities, you're panning around, there's a lot of fast action, and where 60 frames per second, 1080p does benefit and make the game very playable, but I did start noticing, if you're looking at even texture detail or just some of that geometry in the distance, there's that telltale signs of the blocky video compression, both motion compression and even when scenes are pretty still and you're doing like a slow pan, for example, you're going to see in high detail parts of the scene just that blockiness of the H.265 video compression. It was pretty noticeable when I booted up, for example, Astrobot and scenes that just have tons of grass detail and texture detail in near and far objects panning around. Definitely could tell that this was a compressed video image, not something running locally. That's going to be the case across all remote play experiences, but when you're playing this on a larger 8-inch screen like this, I found that even more noticeable than playing on a smaller phone, for example. And I wish that Sony did more on the back end to allow for higher bitrate streaming or even customization for streaming quality on the portal, because otherwise this is a pretty bare bones experience. I mean, other than the touchscreen here, we can tap to see your two touchpad analogs. You can pull in the menu from the side, and there's not a ton you can do. You can very easily disconnect from your PS5. You can connect to the PlayStation Explorer earbuds or the upcoming Elite headphones using this new 2.4 gigahertz PS Link connection. There's the brightness slider, of course, and interestingly enough, an airplane mode that immediately disconnects you from the gameplay and disconnects the headphones as well. And in the settings menu, aside from connecting to your Wi-Fi network, and a few bits of system information, things like the duration of how long the idle period before going into rest mode. So not a lot you can do. You can turn off the lights on the side, the blue lights on the the light bar here on the DualSense controllers, or the mute button, or you can turn down the haptics, the vibration intensity, or that DualSense trigger effect haptics. That might save you a little bit of battery life. But I mean, if the point of this is to have those DualSense controllers, that ergonomics, I want to have that at max response and max haptic feedback. Battery life was the other big question with the PlayStation Portal, and the PS5's accessories famously don't have a ton of great battery life. The DualSense controller lasts, between 6 and 7 hours. DualSense Edge, less than half of that. And the PlayStation Portal, I did 2 battery rundown tests. One just playing Spider-Man 2 normally, pick it up for 30 minutes at a time, set it back down, change my brightness based on my ambient brightness, and over the course of 2 days, got about 4.5 hours of total playtime on the PlayStation Portal. It's less than I had hoped or anticipated. Certainly enough to go through multiple play sessions, but I did find myself then plugging this into USB-C once it hit near 0. Doing a straightforward battery rundown test using at medium brightness and turning off the haptics on the DualSense controller, having a rubber band just to have it running nonstop, got about 5.5 hours of battery life streaming from the PS5. And to charge this, it comes with a USB-C cable. It doesn't come with a wall wart. It expects you to plug this into your PS5 to charge it. It takes 2.5 hours to charge this fully. And using a dedicated 45-watt wall wart, it took 105 minutes, well under that 2.5-hour charge time, to go from 0 to 100%. And in fact, with that 45-watt wall wart, with an hour of charge, you can get up to 65% charge from 0. So that's not too long for recharging, and sufficient for sitting on your couch, sitting in your bed for bedtime, playing this. Of course, this is not really a device you'd be playing on a car ride over, you're tethered to your phone cellular connection, or plane ride either. That Wi-Fi just won't work. This is for, playing in a hotel room if you're traveling, or one of the best scenarios for this is, at home, if you have kids like I do, and they want to use the TV, then sure, they can watch the TV, and then I can sit on the couch using the Portal and stream directly from the PlayStation 5. And that's really the ideal scenario for this. This is for households where you're sharing your main TV, or you just want the versatility of playing your PS5 game in different rooms in your house, in your office, in your bed, on your couch, in a different ergonomic setting. And ergonomically, I've really dug this. I think they had a nice balance between the weight distribution, and the feel of these controllers. I just wish that the image quality was a little better on this. I'm not even bummed out that they use an LCD. It's just streaming video, so the video quality on like the OLED Steam Deck or an OLED iPhone is nicer. The blacks are darker, but you're not getting true HDR with that video playback. And here, I like the brightness, I like the quality of this LCD, the color representation. I just wish those compression artifacts weren't there. And maybe that's something that they can change with a future software update, including maybe allowing you to tap into PS Plus Premium's cloud streaming. But as of right now, it's pretty bare bones. I wouldn't say a compromised gaming experience, but a very straightforward, no frills PlayStation gaming experience. People who buy this hopefully know what they're getting into. There's a lot of misinformation about whether you can play this at home or outside at someone else's home. Yeah, sure, you can connect this as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, but without a Wi-Fi connection, there's nothing you can do on this. And that's where there might be some confusion, I think, this holiday season. I mean, looking at the box here for the Portal, there's not a ton of information. It should say, I think, very clearly, this needs a PS5. The only indication is in the bottom corner here where it says required with an icon for Wi-Fi and an icon for the PlayStation 5, and the text says PlayStation console sold separately. It really needs, I think, Sony really needs to make clear that this is not a device that you can play games on by itself, that it's PlayStation 5 required in big, bold text, and that's just not here in the box, unfortunately. But for people who are excited about it, I think they know what they're getting into, and what they'll be getting is a best case scenario remote play experience. Now, that's not to say that it can't be improved. I think there's still plenty of room for improvement on this, whether it's with maybe better screen, maybe better controls more akin to the PS Edge controller, or just software improvements on the back end for remote play, allowing for you to customize your settings, allowing for higher bitrate, all of these things that are just not available right now. So I hesitate to recommend this based on updates and upgrades that may or may not be coming in the future. And honestly, there are a lot of options out there right now. If you have a PS5 and you want to try out remote play, just to see if it's right for you, pick up a $15 phone dock, or if you want to see, for example, the Logitech G Cloud, that allows you to do more than just PlayStation streaming, but you can also do remote play on that as well. If you have questions about the PlayStation Portal, about the PS Link system and the PlayStation Explorer earbuds, also $200, please post them in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'm Norm from Tested, and I'll see you next time. Bye.